Well, good morning. Tinker here again for the Tinker channel. And it seems like a morning for mistakes. I think I'm going to entitle this portion of the video Mistakes. I'd like to go over probably all of the major mistakes I've made so far, not only in the filming of this video series, but more importantly in the choice of the entire project, starting with the purchase of the truck. I've had several mistakes this morning. I'm running out of time to get my truck done. It's been over a month since I started this video series with what I thought was going to be a 2-week repair, but delays in machine shop work, my available time to work on this vehicle, waiting for parts to show up. All of these things have left us with a series of mistakes. This morning I started shooting this video because I'm going to have to start working on my truck in the mornings before I go to my real job, because I really need my vehicle. Right now I'm stuck on my Harley. I know you're probably thinking, boy, I wish I had such problems being stuck on a Harley. I don't mind riding my Harley. I love it. I've ridden motorcycles since I was 6. I've had a Harley since I was 21. I don't mind riding it, but it does make my job kind of difficult, being as I haul things a lot. And you can't haul things on Harley. Well, you can, but it's pretty limited. Anyway, so today's mistakes. I started filming this portion of the series at 6 o'clock this morning. Got out here with my cup of coffee in my garage, and then the battery went dead on my camera, and I filmed the entire segment that I'm going to do now. The camera was off the whole time. Then I went and got my other battery, replaced the camera, started off again. It was like this is a 15 or 20 minute video, I'm sure. I don't know how long it's going to take at this point, but I've shot it. This is the 3rd time I'm shooting this, because the next time I shot it, I ran out of data on the card. So now I'm shooting it a 3rd time. Okay, so mistakes. Let me start off with mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 was I bought a 2005 Dodge Cummins turbo diesel 5.9 liter 24 valve. Now that in itself wouldn't be a mistake if you knew what you were doing. Unfortunately, this vehicle, it was the very first diesel I've ever owned. As I point out occasionally, I didn't know anything about diesels. Every single time in my life, I'm 50-something years old, every single time in my life so far that I have purchased something that I didn't fully understand, I have gotten screwed. In this particular case is no exception. I bought this truck a while back. I put 100,000 miles on it. But when I bought it, there was this tick, 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 tick in the diesel engine. Now, I thought, well, diesels are loud, that's normal, who'd care? Well, it turns out, well, diesels are loud, that is normal, but the tick, 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 that's not normal. That was indicative of this, which is I had a broken ring in the number 1 cylinder when I bought the truck roughly 100,000 miles ago. You can see the wear on the side of the piston here. This is where the piston was slapping the side of the cylinder, because this top ring helps keep the piston straight in the cylinder. This ring was broken when I bought the truck. They had overheated it. The ring got broke. They decided to sell the truck because it started making noise. So I bought it not knowing what I was doing. Paid $17,000 for a truck with an engine problem. I strongly recommend, now unsolicited advice is rarely heeded, so take it or leave it, but I strongly recommend, if you're going to buy a diesel truck and you don't know diesel trucks, you haven't got a lot of experience with it, take the vehicle to a mechanic, have it examined. Now, not just any mechanic. You need to take it to a diesel mechanic, somebody who knows diesel engines and is honest and is not going to lie to you, and have them inspect the vehicle, have them run it, have them drive it, have them listen to it, have them find out if there's anything wrong with it. Because small problems on diesel engines are very expensive repairs. This is 100,000 miles worth of wear. Not a significant issue, you'd think, and one of the mechanic friends that I have that commonly works on diesels told me this isn't a big deal. He got 140,000 miles out of a Cummins turbo diesel, with the piston slapping the side of the cylinder like this. And as long as that second ring, the first ring is a pre-compression, the second ring is your compression ring. As long as this second ring doesn't break, you're probably okay. It's not going to run right, you're not going to develop the right amount of power, it's going to have noise, you'll lose some fuel economy, there's all kinds of problems with it, but it still runs. When that second ring breaks, no mas goodo. So, this piston was the number 6 cylinder. This piston broke both rings, and see this wear right here? See, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but this wear right here, that's 500 miles. That much wear in 500 miles. Plus there was zero compression in the cylinder, significant loss in power, started blowing by oil, had to actually repair it. No choices there, had to move on. So my first and most major mistake would be buying this truck to start with. I paid $17,000 for a 2005, and it had basically what was going to end up being a blown motor. Now, my second major mistake is that I decided to do a in-frame rebuild on this vehicle when I found out I had no compression in the number 1 and number 6 cylinders. Although I took it to a mechanic who really didn't know what the hell he was doing. He told me I had no compression in my number 3 cylinder. Obviously that wasn't correct, so the guy obviously doesn't know what he's doing. I won't be taking anything to him again. You need to know your mechanic. You need to know they know what they're doing. Turns out, 2 broken rings, no compression in 2 cylinders. Well, no compression in one and very limited compression in the other. Anyhow, my mistake was taking the truck to that guy because he didn't diagnose the problem correctly, so I started a repair that I probably should not have done in the vehicle. Mistake number 3, doing the in-frame rebuild. This truck, you can pull that motor out without removing the cab. Now everybody says you got to remove the cab on these. You don't. It has a segment in the front of the truck where you can just take all the center stuff out, take your radiator, take your cooler, take all that stuff out, your intercooler, take all that stuff off the truck. You got to do that anyway. And the whole top section of the front of the truck will unbolt. So you can just pull the motor right out. You don't have to remove the cab on this truck. So I should have done an out-of-frame rebuild and taken the engine out and sent it to a machine shop and had it bored and bought new pistons and done a complete rebuild. Then I'd have what is essentially a brand new motor in this truck. Unfortunately, once you make the decision to do this process, at least for me, I don't have the money to do it twice. So I've already got about $4,000 sunk into this project. I can't start over. So I'm stuck with what I got. So mistake number 3 was doing the in-frame rebuild. Should have done an out-of-frame rebuild. For several reasons. One is I couldn't properly get the cylinders set up, so now I have, because they weren't bored, I don't have perfectly smooth cylinders. The rings have left a groove in the top of the cylinder wall. I very well may break another piston or piston ring because of that. But I have no choice. I have to roll with it at this point, and I'll keep you guys updated after the vehicle is put back together and running. I'll shoot some more videos occasionally, unless it fries, in which point I'll shoot a video when it fries. But provided it gives me some longevity, I'll shoot videos occasionally to show how long the engine lasts, even with all of these problems. So that was mistake number 3. Not doing the out-of-frame rebuild. And one of the reasons, like I mentioned, was the piston, the ring wear inside the cylinders. You can't remove that. There's lots of people who've done this, so I'm assuming that my ring wear was not exceptional, and that I'm praying to God that this will actually work out, because I can't afford to do this twice. So that's that. The third mistake also involved the fact that you're replacing all the bearings in the lower end of the engine. Well, you're not replacing all of them. They have an overhaul and an underhaul. The overhaul is replacing the bearings in the top part of the motor, or a complete engine overhaul. So this is in-frame is about half an overhaul. There is a process, and you can look this up online, for doing what they call an underhaul. The underhaul is to roll in the main bearings for your crankshaft supports. You can do that in the vehicle. I'm not going to. I don't have the time. I need my vehicle, and I've been down for a month. I am at a I'm getting pushed into a corner where I'm going to have this thing running very, very soon. So I need to roll these bearings in. I don't have time to do it. I also don't have the money to buy the bearing kit. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to let it ride the way it is. Significantly reduces the life of the rebuild of my underhaul, but with all the other questions that are associated with this particular rebuild, I don't know if it'd be worth it anyway. So we're going to roll with it. We're going to run it. We're going to see how long it lasts. Underhaul, remember that word because that's what you call it when you roll in the bearings from the bottom, and those are for your main bearings. It involves replacing pulling the block stiffener off the bottom and removing your main bearing caps and rolling in new bearings without removing the crankshaft while the vehicle is still while the motor is still in the vehicle. You can do this. There are videos of it. There's a place online called agkits.com where I bought some parts from because they sell agricultural equipment. They have instructions for an underhaul. The Cummins turbo diesel is a tractor motor. This thing, it was built for tractors. They put it in a truck. And these ag kits, they use tractors for hundreds of thousands of hours. They're industrial use. Why not? Parts are a lot cheaper. My perspective. Again, everything involves risk and the consequences of those risks. If you choose to use these guys for your parts, understand you're buying agricultural parts, not automotive parts. It's the same motor, but I just have to disclaimer that so that you know you aren't, you're taking risks. You have to be responsible for the consequences of your choices. Now on to mistake number 4. This is a major mistake. I didn't know diddly squat about diesel engines when I pulled this vehicle apart. I bought some crappy manuals to give me instructions. They instructed me to pull the fuel rail system completely apart, one piece at a time, and set it aside. Nowhere in the manual did it say that you had to seal up any of the holes. Did it say that you needed to make sure the fuel system was clean? All of this stuff, buy a good manual, and I'll tell you, the commonplace ones you get at the auto parts stores are not good manuals. They really are, they're very low par. You find better information on YouTube a lot. What I did is I actually went on YouTube because my manual told me, take it to a mechanic. I'm like, why did I buy a freaking manual? Why did I pay you $50 if you're gonna tell me to take the dang thing to a mechanic? I wanna do it myself, give me the process, but they won't do it. The process for doing the fuel injector replacement is fairly straightforward. Yeah, it needs some mechanical ability, but basic tools, it's a 6-step process. It's really not that complicated, but it is very, 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 very critically important that you do it exactly right. That's the important part, why they say to take it to a mechanic, but most mechanics I know, they wouldn't have done it right to start with. That's how I got my fuel injectors. A mechanic put them in, didn't put them in right. My other mechanic friend who knew sold me the injectors cheap because they were brand new. They were installed incorrectly, so they weren't working. The guy went and replaced them with brand new injectors again and had a mechanic who knew what he was doing put them in correctly. So now I got a brand new set of injectors for, a fifth of what I would have had to pay for them because somebody installed them incorrectly. And he's lucky he didn't blow his motor. Mistake number 4, I took the fuel rail apart. This fuel rail is a high pressure, 2600, 26,000 PSI, I'm not sure which. They're both very, very high pressure. This is your fuel rail. A fuel rail this is a manifold. A manifold is where you have an input and several outputs. There's no switches, there's no valves, there's nothing in here that controls the flow in any way. All it is an input. This thing has equal pressure throughout the whole system. The valves and the injectors control when the fuel is distributed into the motor. The manifold really has nothing to do with it. It just distributes the fuel. It's a very, very high pressure system. Your fuel injectors are super, super, super sensitive to dirt and contaminants. So the average set of injectors, most people are going to have to pay between $2,500 and $4,000 for a set of injectors. It is critically important that you do not allow any dirt to get in any of this system in any way. Now we're talking 5 micron particles. This is super, super small. Don't know how big that is. Look it up online if you want to know. I don't know. It's super small. Any little piece of dust is going to ruin your injector. So ruining your injectors, okay, that's a $2,000 problem. Maybe a $4,000 problem depending on your injectors or where you get them. plus the time and energy to replace it. But more importantly, if your injector is ruined, if it doesn't put out fuel, you'll burn your cylinder up, because the fuel is what cools the cylinder. I mean, a large part of your cooling, oil does some, but you'll cook a cylinder, you'll melt a block or melt a piston. That being said, you do not want your fuel injectors getting plugged up, and a 5-micron piece of grit will plug up your injectors. This system has to stay absolutely clean. You have to clean this thing thoroughly. It has to be really, really clean. Other thing is, if your fuel injector gets a piece of grit in it that keeps the fuel injector open, what happens is you fill your cylinder up with fuel when the vehicle's not running, because the high pressure system comes up before you start it. It squirts fuel into the cylinder. If your cylinder's down that far and you squirt a bunch of fuel in here, when it compresses, there's nowhere for that to go. So you either torpedo your engine, grenade it, blows the entire motor up, because what are you going to do? Where's the fluids won't compress? You know, these are stainless steel pistons. Something's going to break. It's got to go somewhere, so you lose springs, you end up doing the job again. You can do this yourself. Anybody can. It doesn't take any special tools. I don't care what the book says. It doesn't take any special tools. It doesn't take any special talent other than your average mechanical ability. But what it does take is attention to detail. You have to do this right. You cannot not do this correctly. It's a 6-step process, and you can't do it wrong or you will torpedo your motor. That's a $10,000 project, plus you have to replace your injectors, another $2,000 to $4,000. Time to toss the truck, buy a new vehicle, or an old vehicle. I wouldn't recommend buying new ones. Anyway, that being said, my mistake was I took this whole stupid thing apart because that's what the book said to do. The book is wrong.